Hey guys, this is Luke again. I'd like to talk about using Xpresso setups within your cloned objects in Genome. Right now, we have this very simple setup. We have a top cylinder, a bottom cylinder, and then a light that's in the middle. And this is set up or cloned 3 times. So I can go into my doubles and you can see all 3 of them right there. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to have the light within each of these be positioned exactly between the top and the bottom, so it's right in the middle, so that later on I could come up here and maybe move, let's go into the doubles here. For example, I could move this cylinder up or down and have the light stay centered between the two. And this is a very simple setup, and normally if we're just doing this with a normal Xpresso setup, there wouldn't be any kind of difficulties or gotchas that you might run into. But once we start bringing this into Genome, things get a little complicated, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to go into my source object right here, and I go into my null, create an Xpresso tag, open this up, and I'm going to drag in my top cylinder and my bottom cylinder right there, and I'm going to each of them, and I'm going to bring out my global position. So let's do coordinates, global position, just like this. And I am also going to bring in the light and bring in the global position on this as well, but on an import. And I'm going to bring in a mix node, calculate, right there. I'm going to set my mix node to vector, and I'm going to bring in these 2 right here, and then output this position right there, and have a mix value of 50, just like that. And if I go into Genome and I hit update, well, it looks pretty standard to me. But let's see what happens when we start to move it. So I move this. Well, that's certainly not connected right there. The middle light is not moving. What if I move this middle one? No, that's not moving either. Okay. And this one, well, nothing's happening here either. So something obviously is wrong. But I bet if we were to go into our source right here, maybe we move this up. Well, no, we're not getting anything there either. So what the heck is actually going on? Why isn't, even though we go into each of these Xpresso setups and we have the same setup, what gives? Well, this is a little intricacy about Xpresso. If I were to open this Xpresso window right here, what we have is, even though this looks like it's a top cylinder node, it's technically an object node. And within this object node, you can see it says object operator right here. We have, this is being referenced by a specific object, which in this case is top cylinder, this object right here. And this bottom cylinder is, again, it's an object node, and it's referencing one specific object. It's referencing this object right here. And this node right here, again, object node, referencing this particular light. So when we clone this setup, we duplicate it over all these 3 objects right here. For instance, if we're referring to this particular one, this top cylinder node is referring not to this top cylinder, but to this top cylinder up here. And this bottom cylinder node is not responding to this one, but it's reflecting this bottom cylinder. The same thing with this light. It's not referencing this one, it's referencing this one up here. So what we need to do is we need to sort of anchor our objects to refer only to the objects within their hierarchies and not the reference ones. And to do that, we use a special node that I created just for Genome. If we go into our Xpresso editor and we go File, Load Xgroup, and navigate to the directory where your plugins are stored. So in my case, as I go to Applications and scroll down to Maxon, go to Cinema 4D R13, and go to Plugins, Genome, and now within here, the Genome folder, you'll see a special XMA file called Genome Anchor. We want to open that up. And what Genome Anchor does is it has some code inside of it. It has two out ports. One is for host, and the other is for host's child. And so what it will do is whichever Xpresso node that you set it up in, host will always refer to the object that that particular Xpresso tag is on. So even though I duplicated this several times, or I may have to duplicate it several times, it will always refer to whatever object this tag is on. Now, of course, I really should have put this tag or this node within my original. So I'm going to go back up to my original source Xpresso file, and I'm going to load this back up again, load X group, go into applications, just quickly again, Maxon, R13, plugins, Genome, Genome Anchor. Now again, we have two options. One is for a host, which would be the object that the tag is on, which is the null object, and we have host child, which is the one directly below that. So in this case, it would be top cylinder. So what I could do, and what I will do actually, is I'll go into my top cylinder node, I'll hit object, I'll open that up, and I'll plug in the host child directly to that. So now I know that when I go into Genome and I hit update, I know that all of the Xpresso tags, these three, if I go into each of them, this tag, this top cylinder node will definitely refer to this top cylinder. And this tag, this top cylinder node will definitely refer to this top cylinder. And the same with this one referring to this top cylinder. Now what we need to do is we need to do the same thing for our bottom cylinder and for our light. However, Genome Anchor only has two options, right? It has host and host child. So how do we bridge that gap? Well, we can go into our Genome main and we can create a reference node. A reference node is a distant relative of the hierarchy node. It allows you to navigate your object browser's hierarchy right from your Xpresso window. You provide the node with a starting point and a set of directions, and it will use those directions to navigate from the original object to the object that is your intended goal. Genome does all the hard work of creating this node for you. All you've got to worry about is filling in the slots with the correct objects. In this case, we would like to go from the host child to the bottom cylinder. So we want to do reference from, would be the first child, which would be top cylinder. And we want to reference to the bottom cylinder node. So we're going to drag in bottom cylinder right there. And we're going to make sure we have the right Xpresso tag. And there. And then we're going to hit create node. Right there. And so it creates the bottom cylinder node for us, but we don't need that. We already have ours. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to bring this up and go to optimize. And I'm going to plug in host child into this instance path. And then open this up for the object. Plug in this instance right into there. So now we know that the this top cylinder will always refer to this one. Oops. And this node will always refer to this bottom cylinder. And again, once we hit update and we make sure those changes go across the other three, the same thing will happen right here, and right here, where these two nodes will always refer to the two in that particular hierarchy. So we're going to do this once more for the light. So I'm going to open up this object port, head up into Genome, and we're going to reference from top cylinder again to the light, and we're going to make sure that this is the right Xpresso tag. And there, hit create node, and now, just like that, we're going to plug in these. We can delete the light port, plug in the in port to host child, the out port to the object, like that. Now we'll go to Genome, hit update, and now you'll see we're right back. It looks like just like how we started, but this time if we go into this over here, we move the cylinder up, and you'll see that the light moves with it, and it's staying right in the middle. And go the same over here. I move this one down a bit. As you can see, right there, moves down, and this over here. Now that you know this little quirk about Xpresso and Genome, you're free to go and create some really cool rigs. I mean, once you start making user data ports and start cloning those and connecting those to other things, I mean, it just gets crazy, but in the best way possible, and the potential just opens up in front of you. So have fun, and please go make some cool stuff with this. I can't wait to see them.